Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how you can set up and configure the calendars inside of the Microsoft project. If you have a plan to learn Microsoft project and use it to handle your project and your project schedule, you must know that calendars inside of the Microsoft project is very important because every calculation that happen inside of the Microsoft project is based on the calendars that you define inside of the software. So if you define the calendar with a mistake or you use a wrong calendar, then all your calculation happen inside of your project file will be wrong. And here the problem is uh, it's not an easy task to just clean up the mistakes, to update the calendar, update the correct one. It's not easy because there are some different places inside of the Microsoft project that the calculation already happened, and you have to manually clean up those calculations. So, if you're not really familiar with the Microsoft project, if you don't know what exactly is happening behind the software for those calculations, I strongly recommend you to focus on the calendars as a first step to configure it properly and correctly, and then only then start data entry inside of the Microsoft project. Otherwise, it will I will show you, but for now I can tell you it will be a very painful work to clean up that mistakes. Okay, inside of the Microsoft project, here we have task, resource, report, project. Under the project section, there is a section change working time. When you press change working time, here on this screen, you have different information. Let's discuss about these buttons, these sections first, then we move forward. Here, it is mentioned for calendar. If you open this drop down, you have, at the moment, you have three options: 24 hours, night shift, standard. Okay, and it is mentioned here project calendar. Remember this part, project calendar. Okay, these three are default calendars that exist inside of the Microsoft project. So any fresh installation of the Microsoft project has these three. Okay, you can use them. Okay, if you want, you can use them, you can modify them on your project, or you can create new calendar. As a tip, always remember that the best practice here is never using the default calendars, and always for your project, for your new project, create new one, even if that calendar is exact same. If the information for the new calendar that you're gonna use is exactly same as one of these three, don't use these three. The reason behind this is, actually I can give you the reason behind this is, if you want to connect to the project server, these three already exist on project server, and there will be a conflict between these calendars and those calendars that already exist on the project server side. Other reason is, if you always try to use these default calendars, then you will never learn how to set up and configure the calendars, and you cannot troubleshoot the project file if you face a problem with the calendar. When you create a new calendar, it will help you to understand the logic and the concept behind the calendars inside of the Microsoft project. So whenever you want to have a new project, you want to define it inside of the Microsoft project, or whenever you want to practice inside of the Microsoft project, always try to create a new calendar. Okay. Here you can see that the working days are white. Here is a legend. Working day, non-working day, edited working hours. For example, the default working hours is 8 to 12, 1 to 5. If you edit this one to, for example, 1 to 6, only this specific day. Then here you can see it with the underline. Okay, these are the legend. And here you have two important tabs that we are going to cover in this video: exceptions and work weeks. Okay. Now, let's try to create new one. Let's say I want to create a new calendar for my project. I press create new calendar. A new screen, pop-up screen is appear for me. Here I can define a name. So let's say I put practice 1. Never use a name that you or other people cannot understand. That's also another tip. Here, choose a very wise name, a name that represent that specific calendar. For example, if you want to create a specific calendar for engineer team, here don't put a name as 1, 2, X, Y. Put a correct name, put something that other people also can understand. What exactly is this calendar? For engineering team, put engineering team calendar. Okay. So here for our, because it's a practice, I put it practice 1. Then you have two options here. Create new base calendar or make a copy of. At the moment, you may say it doesn't make difference either if I create a new base calendar or a copy of a standard, it's same. You are right. But let's say in a project you already created a calendar, and for that calendar, for exceptions, for example, holidays, you already defined, for example, 20 holidays inside of that calendar. Now you want to create a new calendar that new calendar is similar to this calendar, only for example some working hours are different, or some small changes, a small difference between these two calendars. So in that case, you can make copy of that specific calendar and then modify and change it accordingly for the new one. Okay, so it's a very handy and useful option. And at the moment, because it's totally fresh, there is no other calendar inside of the Microsoft project. For me, it doesn't matter if I want to create a new base calendar or a copy of a standard. Okay, so now let's say I create a copy from a standard. I press OK. Now, as you can see here, another item added in this dropdown, practice 1, right? But still, you can see the project calendar here mentioned for the standard. Okay, I'm not explaining this at the moment. I want to remember this point because it's something that help you for troubleshooting in the future. Okay, so just remind you that here still the project calendar exists here for the standard, not the practice one. Okay. Now remember, if you want to go in details, remember which calendar you selected. For example, if it's on a standard, if I go to work week, select and details, it will update the information of this calendar. So remember and be careful which one you select. Okay, now I created the new one. I'm selecting this practice 1. Then here you have two options: work weeks, exceptions, two different tabs, right? Two different tabs. Let me here for work weeks, there is one record. Exists by default. You cannot delete it. You cannot remove it. It's there, okay? But you can modify it. Let me select it and press details. Here you have the working the days of weeks: Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Okay, and here you have three different uh, options that you can select. This one, the first one, change the value to the default. Okay, this one, change that specific day to non-working time. Holiday, non-working day. This one, make the last one, make the day as a working. For example, the default calendar, as you can see, Sunday and Saturday is off, right? No working hours mentioned here. Monday, as you can see, the default value is already populated. 8 a.m. to 12, 1 p.m. to 5 p.m., right? So let me select Monday and select this one, set days to non-working time. Then there is no hours here. Okay, right? So it means now Sunday, Monday, and Saturday are holidays. And remember, it's not a specific Sunday. It's not a specific Sunday. It's not a specific Monday or Saturday. All Sundays, all Mondays, and all Saturdays are non-working days. Okay. Now, let's say on Wednesday, I want to change the working hours. I want to set, for example, on Wednesday, we want to start from 8. Sorry, let me select the working hours. Okay, so 7. Let's say 7 to 12, then from 13 to 18. Okay, see, now working hours is different for this day, and you can do it one by one if you want. Or other easy way is, for example, let's say in this practice I want to create a calendar that people work from 7 a.m. to 12, and then from 1 to 6, and from Sunday to Thursday. So Friday and Saturday is off. Okay, so to make it simple, I select all, make all of them working days, then define the working hours. See here, I select all. I can click on the press the left click, drag, or use Control on keyboard and select one by one, up to you. Then 8 to 12, 13 to 18. Sorry, 7. I said 7. 7 to 12, 1 to 6. Okay. And I set Friday and Saturday non-working days, right? So far, so good, right? Then I press OK. See, here on this table, I see the updated information for practice 1. Friday and Saturday is off, non-working days. All other days of weeks are working days from 7 to 12, 1 to 6. Okay. Now, another option. This is a default for this calendar. Inside of the Microsoft project, you have an option to define some exceptions for 3 days, for 1 month, for 2 months, for 3 months, by creating another record here. For example, here, Ramazan. In in Muslim countries during the Ramadan, it's around 1 month. During the Ramadan, the working hours is different for those peoples. Maybe it's not same in probably it's not same for other people, but this is a case in Muslim countries. So working hours is different for them for a month. Let's say March, Feb, April. Let's say from 8 April to 7 May. Okay, 5. I have to select it here. The start and finish. The start and finish for this kind of exception from 8 to 6. Okay. Supported this field. Here I made a mistake. I pressed here. Okay, then I created the new record. This record is only active during this period, and during this period, let's say working hours is only from 9 to 3. Okay, and Saturday and Friday is off. Okay, so we have the default record for the work weeks, and I have exception use case for a specific time between 8 April and 6 May. During this period, the calendar is following this new information, only 9 to 3. Before and after, it is following the default one. Okay, this one is clear. And also, this is for the work weeks. You also have exception case. On exception tab, let's say, for example, April, May, end of May is holiday. It's also better you specify why that day is holiday. When you create a new record as an exception, if you go to the details, it's by default non-working. Forget this part, this pattern, I will explain it later. But by default, when you create an exceptions, it's non-working days. So this day is non-working days. As you can see here, no date. You can use this and select a day and create new one, or it doesn't matter, it's up to you. Holiday 2, or you can create the record and then change the date here. It doesn't matter. When you create an exception, you can make it, for example, 2 days. Just add start to finish. It will apply for 2 days. Okay. But remember, the exceptions inside of the calendar is not only non-working days. It's by default inside of the Microsoft project. It is considered as non-working days, but it is not necessarily for non-working days. You can also use it for a case that working hours are different. Let me show you an example. For example, let's say for 23 of September 24, I have another exception. short day. And on this day, working hours is like from 7 to 12 only. Okay. So exceptions, it's kind of similar to work weeks. Exceptions by default are non-working days, but you can also define a work exception working days. Okay. So working hours at this specific day is from 7 to 12. Now let me explain you this part, recurrence pattern. Let's say I'm from October, I'm creating a pattern. 1st of October is is off, non-working days. Okay. Now here I have an option to create a pattern that repeat this event, repeat this non-working day. Here I have 4 different options. Daily, every 1 days. Okay. Let's say I put it every 3 days. Every 3 days. Start from 1st of October and after, for example, 5 times. Okay. I have 2 options here. And after 5 times that this case happened, or by date. Between these 2 dates, every 5 times, every 3 days, between these 2 specific dates, please make that day as non-working day. Okay, let's say I select this one just to show you here. Here, as you can see, this 1st of October is non-working days. Then 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Important point, very important point here is this calculation on this pattern. Here, when you specify every 3 days, it's based on 3 calendar days. It's very important. It's not mentioned here, but you need to know that this calculation is based on every 3 calendar days, not working days. Okay. Maybe as an enhancement in future, Microsoft decide to add an option here that you can specify that apply this pattern every 3 working days. Okay. So for you to know, and it's important for you, it is considered every 3 calendar days. So Tuesday is working day. It's non-working day. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Then Saturday, Sunday, Monday. It ignored if that day is working day or non-working day. Okay. Other option you have here is kind of similar. Nothing special. Daily, weekly. Every week, every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks. And here you can specify every 3 weeks on Friday. Every 3 weeks on Friday and Tuesday. Every 3 weeks on Wednesday. Okay. If you select monthly option, you can specify the first day of every month or the first day of every 2 months. For example, in a project, the second day of each month is a meeting with management, and working hours on that day is less or maybe higher, different, or even the project is you consider it as a non-working day for people for that specific day, so they can attend on that important meeting. Okay, and you don't want that time considered as a working hours for the project. Okay, you can apply different scenarios based on what you need. Or other option here is for monthly, the first Tuesday of each month, or the second Friday of each month. You can define this pattern based on what you need. And here, as I think it's very clear, you specify the range or the number of the occurrence for that specific event. Okay, I think it's clear enough. Let me delete this. Okay, I hope it's clear so far. So let's stick to our original plan for our calendar. Our calendar defined as every day except Fridays and Saturdays are working days, and working hours is 7 to 12 and 1 to 6. Okay. So far so good. Another section that I need to go when I want to create a project calendar, especially when you create new one, is to check the option. It's very important. Let me open the option and show you which section. On option, if you open the option tab from change working time, it is directly going to a schedule. If you go option from file option, you have to select the schedule section. Okay. Under the schedule section, let's review these options because it's important. Week starts on Sunday. Okay. In some country, weeks start on Monday. In some countries, Sunday, maybe Saturday. Up to you. It is not affecting. Remember, some of these options affecting on the calculations. Some of them not. Some of them only change the information visually. Okay. This one is affecting only visually. It's not affecting on your calculation. Okay, now let's say Sunday is fine. Fiscal year starting, not impacting on the calculation. You can just you can use it later for reporting purpose or ignore it. But here, it's very important. Default start time is 8 a.m. Default start time is 8 a.m. Default end time is 5 p.m. It's not based on the calendar that I created, and my intention is to use it for the project calendar. So I have to update this one manually to 7. Default end time 6 p.m. Okay. Now, these three also are very important, especially the first one. Hours per day. Hours per day actually is working hours per day. From 7 to 6, how many hours are working hours? If you remember, what we defined was 7 to 12, so 5 hours. Then 1 to 6, another 5 hours. So working hours for us here is 10. Hours per week. How many working hours per week? 5, we have 5 working days. So this one is not 40, it's 50. Days per month. Here you can say, up to you, you can say 20 or 22. But let me explain and show you where exactly this information affected. Okay. Let me okay this one, back to option. Just to just to show you, let's say I didn't select 7 by mistake and I selected 8. Okay, honest mistake. Let me okay. Uh, don't worry, we are going to have another session for defining tasks, but here I just want to show you how these calendars can impact your schedule. Go to schedule. I will explain this later. Just here. Okay. People, no, better, let me. Okay. So let's say you came here, you define your calendar, you think that everything is fine, you define exceptions, you define work, you try to set up the option information correctly. This one is a mistake, right? But we know that it's just for education purpose. Okay, let me okay. Now you reach to the step that you want to define task inside of the Microsoft project. Okay, you try to task. Let's say you start to task 1, task 2, task 3. Okay, don't worry about how I'm linking these activities, or don't worry about them. We are going to cover them. I'm right now, my concern is only the calendar. Okay, here you can see that's on Gantt chart here. Let me use here. Here you can see, if you look at this section, you can see task 1, right? Task 1, 1 day, but it started here. If someone look at the Gantt chart, you can see the task started on Monday, right? This section is Monday, but it is finished in the middle of Tuesday, right? If you see something like this, and the duration is 1 day, okay, so something is not make sense here. If you look at here, it is mentioned the start day is 25, finish day is 26, but the duration is 1 day. Okay, so something is not make sense. Let me explain you. When you define a calendar inside of the Microsoft project, you also need to assign it to your project. So just creating this entity inside of the Microsoft project is not enough. You create it, but you didn't assign it yet. So what you need to do now is to tell Microsoft project that this calendar is for this new project. To do this, you have to go to project information here. See, project information. And here for the calendar section, you need to tell a Microsoft project that your project calendar is practice 1. Now press OK. Right? See, here you can now see the difference. Now if you go to change working time, now you can see the project calendar. It appeared in front of practice 1. It's not in front of a standard anymore, because you told Microsoft project that this project file, for this project file, the project calendar is practice 1. Okay. Now let me check. Now here, another important point that you always need to consider. I'm not sure if in this version of Microsoft Project they made it automatically to update or not, but here by default you can see Monday, you can see date, right? But you do not see which hours of the day. Okay, it's important. To show that, you can go to File. Where is the option? General. On General, the date format. I rather to change to something that give me date and time. Okay. Now, after changing this, now you can see that a start time and finish is not okay, because I supposed to start at 7, but it started at 8 a.m. and ended at 8 a.m. next day. Why is that? The reason is here a start date by default is mentioned 8 a.m. When you change the project calendar here to practice 1, you also need to update this one. Now it's better. See, from 25, start work 1, it's 1 working day, right? From 7 a.m. to 6, so it's like it's fitting properly. Okay. Now let me show you oh, I forgot. Here also I made a mistake. This one also made a mistake here, and I have to mention it. This one 8 a.m. should not start 8 a.m. It should be 7 a.m. Now let me change some of these options to see where exactly Microsoft use this information. Let me change hours per day to 9. When I change that value to 9, okay, here, as you can see, the duration of those tasks that already defined inside of the Microsoft project automatically changed from 1 to 1.11. Let me explain you why it happened. Let me open a notebook. Okay. Let's see what exactly happened. Okay. For our calendar, we mentioned the working hours is 7 to 12 and 13 to 18, right? So this is what we defined for a working day. 7 to 12, 13 to 18. And it means if I sum up the working hours, we're gonna have 10 hours working day. Okay, between 7 to 12, 13 to 18, we have 10 hours, right? But in Microsoft project, and then we created a task 1, 2, 3, right? We define task here. And by default, the duration of each one, duration was 1 day, right? 1 day. For your information, the duration here in Microsoft Project is based on working hours. So if I inside of the Microsoft Project, if I tell you the duration of a task is 1 day, you need to know how many hours per day is working hours to understand the actual length of that activity. If a working hours per day is 5 hours, 1 day means 5 hours. If it's 10 hours, 1 day, 1 working day is 10 hours. Here, Microsoft Project by default used, let me go back, used this information. Hours per day, or you remember it was 10, right? It was 10. Use this information and try to fill between these hours, 7 to 6. It's match, so 1 day, okay? But as soon as I changed working hours per day from 10 to 9, then Microsoft Project tried to match then the value between 7 to 6 p.m. because 7 to 6 p.m. let me show you here. Now I changed the new setting. Our working hours per day is 9 hours. Okay, now working hours per day is 9 hours. If you try to fill this timeline 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., then 9 hours is not enough. You need to fill it with 1.11 of 11 days, which is equal to 10 hours. So based on this configuration, this setting, basically 10 hours is equal to 1.11 days, right? So important point here is when you define your calendar, your project calendar, you need to make sure that these three is aligned with your calendar, especially this one. And if you want to know, but we're gonna review when I start a video for the defining task. But anyway, you can define tasks with for example duration of 1 week, or you can define task with duration of 1 month. Okay, when you define the duration of task with 1 week or 1 month, then Microsoft Project use these informations: hours per week, hours per month. Okay, so this one is more critical, more important than these two, but these two also need to be aligned. Okay. Don't worry about how I define a task. We are going to have a separate video for this one. For now, just focus to understand the concept of calendars inside of the Microsoft Project. Okay. Now, let me go back here. We created a new calendar here for project, right? You need to understand that inside of the Microsoft Project, you can create calendar for project, each project file, one calendar for each project file, and you can define calendars for task and resource. We didn't discuss about the resource and task yet, but for now, for you, keep it in your mind that you can create calendar for resources and you can create calendars for each task separately. For example, you have one project. On your project, you can have one calendar, and inside of your project, you have maybe 20 tasks. And for these 20 tasks, you can have up to 20 separate calendars. Okay, or you can have 5 calendars and assign it to each tasks. Each task can only have one calendar. And same for resource. Each resource can have also separate calendar. You may define one calendar and assign it to resource and task, but it's up to you. But each resource and each task can have a separate calendar. Okay. We will discuss about this when we have a session about the task and resources. And I think I covered most important points about the calendar so far. So let me summarize. Let me summarize what we discussed here so far. To access the calendars inside of the Microsoft project, you need to use change working time. Okay, change working time. You have 3 default calendars. As I mentioned, try not to use them and always create new one. You can create a new calendar. When you have a new create a new calendar, you have an option to specify that new calendar as a base calendar, fresh, or you can make a copy of one of the existing calendar and modify it based on what you need. Okay. Then we discuss about the work weeks and exceptions. Exceptions, for example, for holidays. Mostly we use it for the holidays. Or if you have a day that you want to have a very different working hours, you can also use that. After you define, you can go to details and define that. We also discuss about the recurrence pattern for the exceptions that you can define. Okay. But important points that every time you define the calendars, you must check it and you need to double check it. Otherwise, you're gonna have a messy project plan and you need to fix a lot of points in different places. Point 1 is, let's say, option. Point 1 is option. When you define a calendar for your project, always make sure that default start time is aligned, default end time is aligned, hours per day is aligned, hours per week and hours per month is also aligned. It's very important. Other important point that you need to check and make sure it's set up and configured is inside of the project information, you need to assign that project to your calendar. That calendar to your project. Here, for example, our project calendar is practice 1. So here I assign it. Here also, because by default, it's mentioned 8 a.m. Even if it's not visible for you, you need to change the date format on file option. But by default, it's 8 a.m. And if the starting hours for your calendar and your project is not 8 a.m., you need to change it manually here. Otherwise, the first task of your project start at 8 a.m. and it will impact all your project plan. So this one also you need to make sure it's aligned with your project calendar. Okay. Next point, I think I missed this one to mention. Next point is, but it's not affecting your calculation. It's just a visual. As you can see here on Gantt chart, the calendar is, let me double click here. The calendar is standard. Sunday and Saturday is off. But if you remember, our project plan is practice, and in practice, Friday and Saturday is off. Okay? As I said, it's not affecting your calculation. It is only a visual matter. So I double click here, or right click here and here, exactly here, time scale, change working time, no, here, sorry, the right kill, time scale, and the on non-working tab, here you can define which calendar used to show on Gantt chart. I use practice 1, okay. Now, as you can see, Friday and Saturday is off, public holidays or non-working days. Okay, and I believe we covered all the important points regarding the calendars, and I think that's it. Thank you for your time. Please try to practice. I give you a practice at the end of this video. You can see it here on the screen. Try to solve this practice. I'm gonna create a very short video on regarding this practice, and share it after this video. Have a good day and good luck.